I was telling Hannah the other day, that I ran another webinar and the recording failed. It was so sad because people were asking for the recording. They were like, I missed something. Can I see it? Like,
Yeah.
nope. Sorry, there isn't one.
Sometimes technology betrays us and there's nothing we can do about it. We do
Yeah,
our best.
we do our best.
All
Yeah.
right, friends. I'm going to kick us off. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Hannah. I lead email and community at Growclass. You probably see me in your inbox or on Slack or just around the atmosphere of Growclass. If you're not familiar with Growclass, we are a 6-week growth marketing course and community filled with founders, marketers, and freelancers. So we teach everything from SEO, email marketing, customer psychology, whole bunch. We're not currently accepting any new members in our community, but you can join a wait list if you would like to be the first to know when doors open again. So I can drop a link in the chat if anyone would like to learn more about Growclass. I'll drop that in the chat for you.
I would also say highly recommend joining the community. The gather aspect, I'm a member and I love it. And I like telling everybody about it.
We love having you in there, Mariya. Like, you're honestly one of the most like hype people in there, always helping people out. So thank you for your service as well.
I'm definitely not the only one though, which is
Not
what
the only
matters.
one,
You know,
no.
there's so many people that are like really into it. So if you guys are looking for a community where people are actually dedicated, join Growclass for sure.
Appreciate that.
All right.
So today I'm really excited to kick us off with, so what? How to create better content and improve your marketing with one question, hosted by Mariya Delano. So Mariya is the founder of Kalina Marketing, a content marketing agency for B2B technical brands. She helps clients with content marketing strategy, tactics, and execution. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Sorry, I didn't realize you shared your screen there.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to stop? I figured.
Okay. Mariya cares
deeply
deeply about the quality when it comes to marketing and delivering a unique and relevant point of view in each piece of content and crafting marketing materials from a deep understanding of businesses, audiences, and their interests. So I'll be dropping Mariya's links in the chat for you if you want to connect with her. She's also in our Slack, but here is her link. So follow her on LinkedIn and all the things. I'll drop the links as well. But yeah, I'm going to pass the mic over to you, Mariya, to learn how to create better content. And just want to let everyone know we will have time for Q&A at the end. So if you want to drop your questions, put it in the chat, put it in the Q&A section. We will get to those questions after Mariya's finished. And just a reminder, there's no such thing as a dumb question. This is a judgment-free zone. We just ask that you keep it kind and respectful. Everyone's here to learn. So pass it over to you, Mariya.
Yeah, actually, I have a quick question for you, Hannah. The Q&A, it's a different panel from the chat as far as I can see it. How do people submit things to the Q&A as opposed to the chat?
I'm pretty sure there should be a section in like at the bottom of the screen or on the side.
Okay. Yeah. Can everybody see it all right?
If not, just drop it in the chat because my view looks a little different as a host, but drop it in the chat. Yeah. I'll pick it up for you.
All right. Okay, sounds good. All righty. Can everybody see my screen? I assume so. Yep, we're all good. Okay, let's get started. So what? As you've seen the description and the title of the session, we're building everything around this one question. It is one of the most annoying questions that I absolutely hate everything about, but it's also one of the most useful questions. So I'm hoping that by the end of this hour, you will all have a love-hate frenemy relationship with this question in the same way that I do, because it's honestly been a bit of a secret superpower as a content marketer. And I hope that you will also glean some use out of it. And we're talking about making content and improving your marketing in a way that's a little different to what most devices like. So what are we going to go over? Here's just a quick overview. We're going to have an initial intro section. We're just going to talk about why are we phrasing everything around this question that's just 2 simple words. Why do we care about that so much? And why is this session structured this way? What am I hoping you will learn out of this? And then we have the 3 actual sections that will correspond to steps of the approach that I'm recommending, which will be 1, how to dig deeper and how to figure out a better way of analyzing content that already exists, whether it's your own content, your brand's previous content, or your competitors or popular things that you're seeing out there that you're trying to benchmark yourself against. Then how to ask better questions and how to figure out why things actually matter. And then the last part is where to find unique answers and how to come up with your own point of view on things. So we're going to have the intro, 3 main body sections, and within each section, we're also going to have 3 examples that we're all going to go through together. Please be prepared to answer things in the chat. I'm going to make you actually answer things. I know you can't say anything, so you're not too much on the spot, but I will be waiting to see answers in the chat and we will not move on. So fair warning, pay attention. I will not let you off easy. All right. Question 1, let's participate. Why do you want to make better content? Answer in the chat. I want to know why everybody's here. Why did you care? Why did you sign up for this session? Why did you spend 1 hour of your limited working day to be here today? To engage your audience further, to have an impact, more conversions, more engagement, more sales and community engagement. Engage with your customers. All right, I see the word engagement a lot. Can some of you tell me what you mean by that? Because it's a bit of a buzzword. What does engaging mean to you? Just getting views, just getting a like, getting a proper comment, something more? Client conversion, be inspired to respond. I love that. Want to know if somebody actually has read it, read in all caps. Yes. Meaningful interaction for others to realize your knowledge and ultimately to create sales. Yep. Have people identify with the content and actually take an action. Shannon, I love that. To add more value. Yes. To get more participation, convert to client sales. Want our customers to come to us as experts in our field. Jenny, yes, I hear that a lot. I'd love to make sure that people find the content valuable and convert them into buyers. Yes, Janice, I fully agree. Be seen as an expert. A couple of people are saying that. Yep, expert, become an expert. Thought leadership. I have a meme about thought leadership in the slide. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you've gotten a spoiler, but we will talk about thought leadership in particular. All right. Yes, I agree. I think we're all on the same page. Ooh, one more answer. Janice, anything from clicks, likes, or comments to show that the customer is actively engaged and excited. Yeah, so I think we're all on the same page here that just getting somebody to click, not scroll, not read anything, click away, that's not really engagement. That's not what we're looking for with our content. We hope to actually make an impression, make people think about something, spend time with us actively in one way or another, and hopefully, you know, remember us, remember our brand, and take an action, and eventually down the line convert to a sale, because that's what we're here for, right? This is content marketing, not just content for the sake of content. And I think for all of that, you will find this useful because those were the things I was assuming. And thankfully, we all agree here. All right. So why are we here? Exactly that. We're trying to up our game, right? Something that I've been hearing a lot of marketers talk about, and I don't know if it's the same for you. Please let me know. Actually, I'd love to hear in the chat. It's a hard time for a lot of us right now, especially with content. A lot of us are working in tech, and tech is having a bunch of layoffs, and there's a recession going on in the economy at large. Things are slowing down. And then the ultimate boogeyman, AI. AI is making content now. So what are we doing here? Why are we humans with our meaty, sweaty human bodies even trying to play this game anymore? Shouldn't we outsource it all to ChatGPT? And everybody seems to be a little freaked out and worried that our jobs are on the brink of extinction. Do you guys feel the same way? I'd love to hear that. Let me know if you're worried about any of these things or anything else. If there's another worry I didn't mention that applies to content, please tell me. Hell, I'm out, meaty. Yeah, meaty, sweaty, gross, stinky. I squishy. Leveraging ChatGPT, and yeah, I mean it's nice to leverage it if we can, but we don't want to make it replace us, ideally. Yep, our field has no limits. Yes, Shannon, I agree. I read a blog post this morning that was saying that yes, AI is a bit of a threat, but we've been having external factors up our game over and over, and the fun thing is there's no ceiling. Like, we have a floor to what our content should look like, but there's no ceiling. And today we're definitely talking about how to start approaching towards that impossible ceiling as opposed to trying to do the bare minimum. If you're here for the bare minimum content advice, please turn this webinar off, seriously. I'm not about that. A content launch plan for your course, a little worried. Why are you worried? And yeah, AI is a game changer for everyone and everything. I would love to hear why you're worried, if you don't mind. about your content launch plan? Just scheduling and shifting the content. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's always hard. Well, hopefully we'll come across. Ooh, write it, enhance it in AI, create variations. Yeah, you can. We are going to talk about things here, though, that mostly will not involve AI at this stage of the process. You can involve it later if you want to, but we're going to pretend AI doesn't really exist. And I wanted to give you a bit of context as well as to why we're structuring things in this particular way. So I used to teach writing in college. I worked as a writing tutor. And these are all techniques that I was taught there for helping people with their academic essays, presentations, papers, all of those things. And when I started working in marketing, I realized how much all of this applied, because in academic writing, we were also trying to educate people, have a unique point of view, contribute to scholarship and build on what others said before us. And in marketing, we're also tackling, specific topics. Some of them are technical, others are still pretty particular for a very niche specialized audience, especially working in B2B. And we want people to see us as an authority, as an expert. So many of you said that in the chat, right? We want to be an expert. We want to sort of take our place together with everybody else that is seen as an expert on that topic. And a lot of these academic techniques honestly translate exactly over, just remove all the jargon and all the really fancy language that they use to make themselves sound smarter. And there you go, you got a blog post. So that's why we're here. And this is one of my first memes. And the point of it is, we all want to think our content is important. We're the ones putting time and energy into it. We're the ones budgeting for it. We're the ones creating it. Every piece of content we put out there is our baby. We want everybody to care about it. But think about who's reading it. I often help people create content for business readers, which means it's probably somebody on their lunch break in the middle of the workday. They're probably eating with one hand and scrolling through LinkedIn or blog on their phone. They might even be on the toilet. And they don't really care that I think my content is important. They don't really care that I have this very special idea. And I think realizing this and remembering that people aren't necessarily inclined to be made to think hard or think about your brand or remember you when they see your things, that helps us get a little more real and meet our readers, viewers, listeners where they actually are. Oh, I see a comment. Your content is not about what you tell. Yes, it's about what they care to learn about. And assume your reader doesn't want to be there. I honestly think that's the best piece of advice. Assume they look like this. Assume they're not impressed. Assume they really want to click away. Because if you plan for this particular kind of reader and you still manage to get their attention, you're good. Everybody who's a little more enthusiastic than that, that's easy. You're going to get them if you get this cat. So think of this cat when you're planning your content. I promise it will help. All right. Why should anybody care about your content? You care about it. It's helping your business, but why should they care? There's a million other things they could do. Nobody owes you their time or attention. We're all busy. We're all tired. We're all burnt out. We're all stressed about our own jobs, stressed about our families. Maybe your kid is sick. Maybe your spouse had a fight with you. Maybe you're also, doing a master's on the side and you're worried about your grade. Maybe your boss said something bad to you. You don't care about some marketer and their conversion tips. You don't care about somebody telling you about 5 e-commerce trends for 2023. No, you don't care, right? And when you're the one on the other side making that content, you need to remember that they might not care, no matter how good your content is. I'm sure all of you are very talented people, have very smart things to say, but you have to overcome that barrier. Nobody owes you their time. Nobody owes you their attention. You have to earn it, and earning it is hard. So when you're planning, you got to assume that they don't care. They're going to fight you. And that is the bit that we're discussing here, how to actually get over that. Maybe your cat is sick. Yeah, if your cat is sick, that is so sad. You're going to care about your cat. So we need to demonstrate the value of our content. Prove that we're worth it. Prove that we're worth that time. Show our audiences that us, our brand, the content that we so painstakingly created is actually worth their time and attention, right? So how do we do that? 3 steps. Find out what others have already said before you so that you know what is and isn't unique, what people have thought about it, maybe what people are frustrated with, right? Get that context. 2, figure out what's missing. Are there gaps in what has been discussed? Are there questions you have or your audience has? Are there things you're curious about where you've read something and you think, I wonder why that is? And then 3, contribute to the conversation. Ask yourself, ask your brand with your unique value and insights that ChatGPT could not copy, that your competitor could not copy, that some random content mill aggregating all the things and paying somebody, $3 an hour to churn out 3,000 words cannot copy. What can you do? What can your brand do that nobody else can? Yeah, and people have become desensitized to traditional marketing and sales tactics. They can see through it. Exactly. The game is harder, so, we got to level up. Step 1, they say. We're going to have a little phrase as a prompt for each phase here. So phase 1 is they say. Here's an example. Let's say I'm writing an essay or I'm talking to you and I tell you a fact or an opinion. Mastodon's culture is really different from Twitter. Okay, why do you care? I don't care. That's neat, I guess. Cool. I'm going to add it to my trivia facts back in my brain that I pull out at parties when I don't know what else to say. But am I actually going to spend time on this? Am I actually going to think about it that much? No. Why is that? Like, this is a claim. It might be an interesting claim. Can some of you guess what this is missing and why the most likely response might be, who cares? Direct impact. There's no direct impact. Yep. Anything else? I want to see if any of you guess the actual answer as to what this is missing. Can't relate. Anything else? How is it different? Show me why. Yes. Okay. You guys are getting it. The thing it's missing is the context as to why is this important? Is this actually an interesting or new statement? And is it relevant to me? So we got to add that context and show what has come before this statement and why we're making the statement in the first place. And that's how we'll get this guy to be happy and actually want to learn more. You can see my very poorly added on happy eyebrows and the smile into the same guy's face. See, he's happy now. So an example here would be Mastodon's culture is really different from Twitter. So before promoting your business on there, you should learn its norms. Now, if you read this statement, you know whether this article, hypothetically, is for you, right? This would be for you if you want to promote your business on Mastodon. This would be for you if you're interested in Mastodon and you used to use Twitter. This would be for you if you're a marketer, right? Is this more appealing? Do you think? Do you agree with me that this is better context and starts to answer at least some of the why? Yeah. Yep, what does the reader already know? Exactly. So you need to give the context. It's self-qualifying, yes, and it's showing you where in the conversation it is. This is a very early discussion of Mastodon. For people that might not know much about it, they probably know that it exists, probably know that it has something to do with Twitter, but they don't know anything about those norms. They don't actually know what Mastodon's like yet. So this qualifies where in the process somebody is, what kind of context it's going to provide, that this is going to be a how-to kind of piece, right? All of that from one sentence. And that shows us if we want to read more. So here's the principle. They say, before you can enter a conversation, figure out what conversations are already happening. What have people said before you? Have they talked about this? If so, who has talked about it? How did they talk about it? And how did people in your target audience actually receive that, right? If you're marketing to developers, right, and you have a new cloud storage tool, right? You might want to look at who has talked about cloud storage lately. Like, have they described certain problems? Have they described certain things they like? Is everybody over cloud storage now because we're all just transferring our brains to AI? If nobody cares about cloud storage, why would you even want to talk about it? This is the way to figure out how to meet people where they're at. You start by figuring out where they're at. So here's a bunch of questions. And by the way, in the post workshop email, Hannah will send you a link to this template where we will have all of these questions again in a way that you can actually fill out. So do pay attention to these questions, but you don't have to try to write them all down. When you analyze past content, ask yourself, what is the standard way or the best practices or the assumed common sense knowledge about this topic? What do they assume, like the author, that I already think or know? Why would the author even assume that? What makes them assume that? Is there anything that's missing or not mentioned? Do I agree or disagree with the statements that they're making? why. And that why is the key. Keep pushing yourself to answer things in a little bit more detail. Describe what the author is saying and if you actually agree with them and why. That's step one to figuring out what you actually think. Does that make sense? Trying to determine from past content whether the audience knows the business jargon. Yeah. So this is the part where you're trying to figure that out, right? You're looking at that. You're looking at a few pieces that have been published for that audience, and you see how much is jargon used. Are people asking questions about it? That's exactly it. What kind of knowledge do they already have? When in doubt, add a key or clarify in the first use. Yes, that is a good principle. All right. So now that we've got this basic idea, we're going to start trying it out. I'm going to have examples here. All of these examples are things I pulled from real marketing materials. It's mostly blogs and a few LinkedIn posts, and I cite where it's coming from at the end. You're going to see 3 questions. So start thinking about how you're going to answer this and drop your answers in the chat. Example 1, here's a little snippet from Effective B2B Influencer Marketing by Sculpt, wearesculpt.com. And the questions we're answering are, what did they say? Do you agree? Why? Take 2 minutes right now, please, to think about this, read it out, and send your answer in the chat when you're done. And I'm going to drink my water. I do want to clarify, by the way, that I'm not tricking you and I didn't pick out only bad examples or only good examples. This is just a bunch of things that I've seen that are at different levels. Some of these I would call good pieces of content, some I wouldn't. I was a little mean that with the blog posts, I kept picking the bits that looked bad out of context, like they had the least amount of why in them. But beyond that, I did try to mostly find neutral examples. So don't feel like you have to criticize everything. You can agree with it. All right, I'll give you 30 seconds, and then I would like to see your answers in the chat. All right, seeing some answers. Give you a few more seconds before everybody has to do it. All right. I'm seeing people are stating what this person said, yes, but I want to see more answers on whether you agree or not and why. Yep, seeing more of those now. Agree? Yes, although there's more to it, exactly. And you've mentioned some things that there's more to it. So I would be immediately thinking, if I were writing a blog post on this topic or making a video or whatever, I might mention those other factors that this didn't consider, right? As you said, frequency of content, quality of content, supporting materials and channels, that could be your outline. Those could be your subsections already. Not really, as there are no facts, numbers, examples of ROI. Yes, there you go. So you could write another post on this or make a video and actually put in those examples or numbers or examples of ROI and actual impact. Yes, would love to see some case studies. There you go. So you might want to think about making a case study potentially. Don't agree because there's no context. Yes, I think finding a point of disagreement can actually be the most productive. I often try to look for things I disagree with. And my favorite is when I can find a piece where I agree with almost everything, but not certain parts of it, because then I like to dig in. Why do I disagree? If I'm inclined to like their larger point, if I'm inclined to like this creator, this brand, because those are usually the interesting bits that you can twist and turn and focus on. Gaps highlight the opportunity. Exactly. So here's another example. Let's go through it quicker. Just type your answers once you're done. We're not going to do a long break this time. Once again, what did they say? Do you agree? Why? And this one is from HubSpot. Once again, I tried to mostly pull these from brands that people would recognize, and I tried to focus them mostly on marketing just so we all have a common background. I often end up working with very technical companies like InfoSec or data analytics, and I know that it would be hard for you guys to read those. So try to find things that were easier. And you don't have to summarize everything they're saying. I mostly am interested in, do you agree and why? But do think for yourself. What did they say? No, sorry. Showed you guys my tabs. The title says the summary. There's enough compelling detail. Interesting. So it launched into an exploration. Stats preference doesn't mean action. Telling me about action. Yes, so you don't necessarily agree with their definitions or the way they jump from one claim to another. Those gaps between how did they get from point A or like claim A to claim B, or from this fact or statistic to their central claim. I really like to dive into those too, because those are usually good gaps as well, right? HubSpot said this, and in our blog post, we wanted to elaborate on, what was it? On purchase preference versus action, or how purchase preference actually relates to action. That's a potential question that you could use as a guiding post for your content. Seeing development trends, which leaves a lot of opportunity to discuss past, present, and future. Yes. You'd want to date. Yes, this was published, I think 2-3 weeks ago. Definitely in the last month or two. I don't think I pulled anything older than February 2023. But this content is already outdated. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Right? Exactly. Yep, there you go. A lot of things missing. Okay, next example. And this is the last one for this section. I pulled this from LinkedIn. Ross Simmons, a great marketer, actually Canadian, to all of you Canadians, fellow countryman for you. This is something he posted a week ago that I found that wasn't too long. And it's kind of his tagline, right? If you follow Ross Simmons, you've probably heard him say it, create once, distribute forever. But let's pretend that we haven't heard it 1,000 times. And if you haven't, even better, and actually think about it critically. What did he say? Do we agree, and why? The comment from Virginia Cider Association is funny. That's man CEO place. Where does it go? Why? How do you discern the path? Yep, a lot of questions for what you do next. Yep, he's being an expert but not providing enough context, so you might want to provide that context. I'll give you guys a few more seconds and then we will move on. Yep, devil's in the details. Exactly. And that's what we're looking at. It teases you to inquire. Yes, so if you were using this as a launching pad for your own content, you would inquire. You would see what questions you have. You might also want to look at those 7 comments and see if somebody else has asked a question. That's what I would do. All right, let's move on. So step 2, the title question for this session. So what? We've established what somebody has said on a topic, right? We know that there's context. What do we do now? Now we ask ourselves, so what? Why does this matter? And here's my meme. Posting because you have to. That's sad. Drake doesn't like that. Posting when you actually have something to say. That's good. Because trust me, those readers on their phone, on their lunch break, on the toilet, in bed before they're about to fall asleep, they don't really care that you had a content calendar and a deadline to fill. If you didn't have anything to say in your content, they're not going to look at it. They're not going to resonate with it. And it's not going to help you meet your targets, your business objectives. It's not going to help you develop that brand expertise that you guys said you wanted. It's not going to help you make sales. So you should make sure that whenever you're trying to make content, you have something to actually add and you know why people care. Quality over quantity. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So this is our principle. So what? Now that you know what others have said, why should you bother saying anything else? What if everybody has said everything that there is to say on that topic, right? Everyone's written on ChatGPT 1,000 times. Do you really need to make another post? Well, maybe. You might have something new to add. You might have a new example. You might have a new angle. You might have found something that actually disproves a lot of other people's takes. Or maybe something new happened and nobody's written about it yet. Or maybe there is nothing to say. But you should think that through. You should think about, okay, this is a cool topic. Maybe it relates to our product or services. It would be nice to write about. Should you? So what? So what that you want to write about this topic? So what that your product does this? So what that you've worked with a client on this? Why do we care? If you're adding your voice to a conversation, you need to have a reason why. So here are some questions to figure out your reason why and how to contribute something that's actually important and that people will care about. Why is this topic worth talking about? What will be lost if I or my brand never actually talk about it and never make this piece of content? How will not talking about this topic further, or like never continuing this kind of conversation on this topic, keep us from understanding something better than we already do? And why should others actually care about it? This is the part where you should know your audience and what they care about, what their pain points are, what their frustrations are. And then you take that together with a specific topic that you're planning for your content and think, okay, I know about my audience. I know they're like this, they care about that. So how does that translate to them caring about this particular piece of content that I'm planning to make? And here's our example. Let's work through it. This time our questions are a little different. What did they say? Always start with that. Do you care? And let's just do it as you. We don't know who the target audiences for a lot of these things are. So for the sake of argument, you are the target audience, people like you. Do you care? Why? And I don't know how many of you will care about these examples or not. I tried to find a range. I see your questions and I would like to answer them a little later because they're not specifically to this point. Like, Jakub, I really like your question. Do we always have to add to the conversation? So I will try to make sure to get back to it later. Yep, I think it's a good question, but not necessarily for this section. Let's leave it for the Q&A. This is too generic to care. Can you tell me a bit more? Why is it too generic? What's so generic? Why do you not care? Try to articulate that feeling that you get. A lot of this honestly comes down to, yes, trust your gut feeling, but then actually dig as to why you're feeling that way. Why is this interesting? Why is it not? Why did you want to share it? Why did you want to read more? You have not learned anything new or been teased with advice. Yes, it doesn't feel like it will benefit you. It doesn't feel like you will know anything on the other end. Exactly. Who's Googling this question? Nobody. I love that. It's really funny. Don't understand the subject or the topic. Yep, you might not be the relevant target audience. Exactly. But that's important, right? If you were writing about this topic for people like you, you might want to stop and think, wait, I don't care about it. Why should others? Why would they care? Is this a good topic to write about? Sometimes it's time to backtrack and think of something else. Can't even get through it. Yes, exactly. You can't get through it. It sucks. It's not a good experience. So why would it be for somebody who's not being made to read it on a slide by a mean presenter? Yes, starting with the why. You don't see yourself. Exactly. Start with the why. So what? Right? And think, here's how the two words, so what would actually work here, right? Resource constraints in project management or limitations in project resources. Okay, cool. So what? Why do I care? People, time, money, equipment, and materials all affect a project success. So what? Why do I need to know that? As a result, tasks get delayed. So what? Tasks get delayed all the time, right? And then you might give me another answer. Well, sometimes your entire project is blocked. So what? So what if your project is stopped? What does that mean? Why do I care? Eventually, this results in project failure. Okay, so what? I still don't know why I care, right? And you can keep asking over and over and over until you find something that actually is unique and interesting and would convince a skeptical reader. Yeah, okay, helping people who are new to creative marketing to ask, understand these questions to get faster. Yeah, we will come back to that too. I think that's a good question to touch on at the end. All right, and we have a couple more examples. I'm just going to give you a few seconds here to read it through. We're not going to talk about it in as much detail. What did they say? Do you care? Why? If you could just give me, do you care, and 2 or 3 words as to why, that would be amazing. You don't have to read the whole thing. If you want to read the first 2 paragraphs, it's fine. And this one is from Notion, because I do want to leave some time for Q&A. Let's Yep, leads with a hook, but you want to know what it means. Yep. Would love to see one or two more answers here. Why do we care, or why do we not care about push and pull distribution levers? Ask yourself, so what, a couple of times. Pretend you're the skeptical cat. Great tactics, but this isn't easily explained. Yep, exactly. All right, let's move on. Yeah, should connect to resources. Yep, such as the distribution checklist to actually give, a practical takeaway. Here's the last one. How direct-to-consumer jewelry companies are changing everything by Shopify. Once again, do we care? Why? Good info for thought, but nothing actionable or next step. Yep. Anybody else have a different perspective? I wonder if some of you don't care about this. Because I didn't, to be honest. But I know that I'm not the target audience. With the price differential, it would make for a better hook. Title pulls you in, but also it shows examples. That is good. Okay. Solves a problem. You're like, okay, great. See, here's a difference. I was not the target audience. A lot of you seem to have been more aligned with it. You were interested. Yeah, I read this and I thought it was boring. It made me want to fall asleep, to be honest. But I think that's good, right? That shows us that there's a difference. And why would I not think it was interesting, but you would? I would dig into that because that would help you define who are you actually targeting with content if you are writing about this topic. I actually think these areas of different tastes are amazing for marketers or for making content because they show you what is more likely to work and with whom. Yeah, it could apply to many industries. Yeah, that is interesting. Maybe a trend. All right. Here's a quick interactive question for you all before we move on to the last step. And the last step is quick and probably the most familiar. Why should others care about a topic that you're making content about? Share in the chat. I was thinking if you're working on something specific, you're already working on a blog post, a course, an email sequence on a specific topic, you're already doing this in your own work. Tell us why others should care about it. Why do you think it's interesting? Tell us how you would answer the so what for something that you're actively working on right now. And I'll give you a minute to do that. And I think to leave more time for Q&A, we're probably not going to go through all 3 examples for the last section. I'll do like 1 and a half. Help shift perspective. Oh, that solves a problem they're going through. Yep, shifting perspective. So you're going back to what have people said already? What is the common wisdom? And you're trying to show them why that might not be right or why you want them to think differently. Yeah, exactly. That's the so what. Industry gets funding from state based on your input participation in this. I want to push you on that. Why should somebody care about that? Just because they want funding? What if they can get funding from somewhere else? Why should they care about getting funding in this particular way? Or why should they learn about it from you? Yep. I never know how to say his name. Peep. I think it's Pep Laja. I think his stuff is great. I try to follow every podcast he appears on. I try to listen to because yes, he knows how to do this and he has a lot of shorthands for answering that. So what in your positioning and messaging? Pep, yeah, okay, Pep Laja, yeah. All right. Well, now I've tricked you into already starting on step 3. Step 3 is I say. I as an individual, I as a brand, I as a client, whoever you are writing content on behalf of. Now that you've figured out what people have said, now that you've figured out why anybody should even care about this, what are you saying? What is your point of view? And yeah, this is my thought leadership meme that I posted on LinkedIn today. Creating thought leadership content requires thinking. You cannot be a thought leader without a thought or any thoughts, right? You got to think something unique. You got to have something unique to say that nobody has said before you, something new, something ideally that nobody else could say before you. Oh, please steal my meme. You can steal all my memes. You're gonna get the slides, take screenshots, tag me if it's on LinkedIn, but please steal my memes. I would love that. So here is our little technique. Share your unique point of view that nobody has heard before. Unique content requires doing something new or thinking something different. Here are some questions for you. Once again, do I agree or disagree with others? Why? What context will my audience need to understand why I think this way? Why do I agree or disagree? What should I tell them about it? Is this a story? Is this based on data that we've gathered? Is this based on years of experience? Is this based on something I've read? What am I adding to this conversation? There's a conversation already happening. Why am I jumping in? Why am I or my organization the right party to even deliver these ideas? Why am I worth listening to about this? What makes me an expert or at least an interesting voice? And how will there's a typo. How will my point of view impact my audience? I think there's a typo in my template. I will change that. How will my point of view impact my audience, right? This is the takeaway. This is what makes them better at their life, at their job, what improves their mood after they've engaged with your content. You want to make their life better in one way or another. So share your unique thoughts and explain why they matter. Somebody's sharing these in Slack. Nice. So here's an example. Let's go through this one and then we'll do Q&A. This is from LinkedIn, from Aaron Balsa, another cool marketer who posts nice stuff. What did they say? And now what can I add and why me are our questions. Please drop in the chat. And if you want to go through the other examples yourself or take longer on these examples, once again, you'll get all the slides. If you want to share your answers with me, do. I would be curious to see like full answers, but you don't have to. Yeah, I'll be waiting to see a couple of answers from you guys in the chat, and then we'll talk about it and move on. What I asked for this little LinkedIn post here, tell me, what did this person say? And then you asking yourself, what can I add? Like, is there anything I could add on this point or to this conversation? And why me? Why am I an important person to say this? And you could say that you're not, but let's pretend you are. Let's pretend you're doing content on this topic. But then this sounds like complaining about the concept while still using the concept. That's interesting. So what would you say about that? Like, why do you think that's an interesting point as well? We know the controversial comments drive engagement. Okay. So what does that mean? What's an engagement pod? Yes, an engagement pod is like when somebody makes a group where a bunch of people basically like and comment and like on social media press the buttons that make the algorithm happy on each other's posts. So if me, Hannah, and Aaron were in an engagement pod and Hannah posted something, me and Aaron would both go in, like it, and comment and repost and give her engagement initially to boost her post. And then if I were to post something, then Hannah and Aaron would do the same for me, right? She says it's cheating, but then recommends it, right? Isn't that interesting? Add a real story example. Yes, and that answers what can I add and why me an example. Expand on this to discuss the impact. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily bad. It's bad if you do it all the time or to like an extreme. Like there's nothing wrong with asking your friends to potentially like something. It becomes weird when there's an expectation, I'd say, that everybody has to like everybody else's stuff. That's bizarre. Yeah, bring in alternatives. All right, so we have 10 minutes, and I'm not going to go through the other examples. I'm going to show you my last meme. Easy templates. We all want the easy templates. Instead, let's ask, so what? Let's push ourselves. Let's keep asking why, and let's be annoying to ourselves and each other, because that way we will be a lot more likely to win over skeptical readers, stop the scroll, catch attention, and actually prove ourselves as experts. I will give you guys a second to appreciate the meme. It's very important. Okay, questions. Let's go. I saw questions I wanted to come back to, so let's start with that. And please drop any other questions in the chat while I look for them. We have 10 minutes. Okay, there you go. Do we always have to add to the conversation? Said Jakob. Aren't I competing with other voices brands? And if they cover something and I don't, they'll get more attention from target buyers. Well, that's the thing, right? You are competing with other people, and that doesn't mean that you should always add to the conversation on every single topic. In fact, I think forcing yourself to go through these kinds of steps and going through these really difficult questions, right? And forcing yourself to think, was that a good answer? Should I add another layer? Why did I say that? That makes you pickier with where you do add your voice to the conversation. Because ideally, you will only talk when you have something to say. Ideally, you will only make content when it does matter, when you are adding something of value. And that way you will stand out. It gives you your competitive advantage over other brands that might not be doing this work, right? If everybody in the project management space is just pumping out 10 lists of 15 best project management tools for 2023 over and over again, and you go in and you're like, do we even need project management tools? Right. And you're not just being contrarian, you actually have a point or something. You have an interesting story, you have an interesting framework. People are going to look at your post a lot more than if you were to publish another 10 best project management tools, right? This is the way to stand out, and this is the way to become an expert. If you don't want to be an expert, then you might not want to publish content, but I think that's a different topic. There was another question somewhere in the chat here. Helping people who are new to creating marketing to understand these questions to get faster to the so what. This was by Virginia Cider Association. Do you mind giving me a bit more context on what you meant by this? Because I want to answer it, but I'm not sure I understand what you meant. All right. Yeah. Okay. While you're typing this, I'll answer. There's, if I click on this, are people seeing the question that I'm answering? Are you seeing something? I don't know what I'm doing. Liz Schumacher asked, do you recommend any resources platforms for finding subject matter experts? My clients are also technical, but most of them don't have time. Yes. Okay. There's a couple of things. First of all, there's Help a B2B Writer, I think is the name. It was recently purchased by Superpath, so you can submit specific questions and subject matter experts sign up. I've gotten some pretty great answers there before, but it is hit or miss, like with any network. Then you could go to, honestly, communities. If you're part of any communities, social media, if you see people who are creating on a topic, if they don't have a gigantic platform, but they have maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred engaged people, or they have like 1,000 to 5,000 followers, they're most likely to talk to you, especially if you ask them something relevant. So that would be a way to do that, right? Just start following people in that industry, in that target audience that talk about it, and it will be easy to see whose posts they're liking, see who they're linking to, see who's getting referenced. There's also a tool that I personally like to use that's called SparkToro. I will type the name in the chat. So they show you can search for an audience based on my audience talks about this. My audience uses this word in their bio. My audience visits this website, and then they'll give you a list of websites and social media accounts of people who they follow. Initially, they'll be big, but you can toggle for hidden gems, and it will show you small accounts. Once again, that are likely to be people who talk about that topic, and you can reach out to them and you can use them as subject matter experts. Because yeah, I would say trying to find them is good. I tend to have I make files and databases of like lists of people who I can plug on a topic or whose content I can go to quote from, so that I can reuse it again and again in the same industry. All right, let's see. Content's not that great if you force it. Is there a problem if you add too much context? Yes. Once again, think about that reader on their phone. They don't have time. Give them just enough context, but also don't bore them. They're going to click away, right? Always think, is this enough? Will they care? Every bit of context that you add, ask yourself, so what? Why do they need this context? Sometimes the answer will be, yes, they need this context because it actually, changes my entire point or the entire takeaway. Other times, if your answer is, well, it's just nice to know, maybe don't add it or make it a footnote or make it another link, add it at the end, right? but make it clear that it's optional. So people who don't have the time don't have to scroll through or click away because they're bored. Would I encourage an engagement pod? I would encourage having people you like, who you might want to occasionally send your content to, but don't enforce a reciprocity rule of any sort of like, if I post something, you all have to like it, otherwise I'll never like your stuff, right? That's when it gets weird. Don't make it too artificial. If it's just, oh yeah, Hannah, I posted something that I think you'll be interested in. Here you go. If you like it, please give it a like or a comment. But I won't be mad at Hannah if she doesn't do that, right? And I'm not expecting to do that every single time I post. That's where it's artificial. It's algorithm meddling. Don't do that. You can send things to people that you've made that you think are interesting, but don't be an a-hole. All right, 19 minutes next time. I wish. Quantity had a boost in followers when you post twice daily and then you slowed down and grew too. Shouldn't there be a mix? What I would do, honestly, is there's a way to publish more often, even if you aren't talking about as many topics, which is have your big things that are like more long form explorations of a topic where you do have something to say, and break it up, right? Break it up into social media posts, break it up into different types of social media posts. You can talk about the same topic again and again, but in different ways, right? Change the format, change the phrase, change your example. You still have something to say every single time because you originally talked about that topic from that core, right? But that still lets you post more often. It doesn't need to be a 2,000 word blog post every single time you make content, right? It could be a meme. I posted the Pikachu meme today with like a little description. I still did have something to say. There was a point behind it, right? But it wasn't a very thorough argument. And it's fine. Let's see. Any other questions? I think I was still waiting for, okay. Virginia Cider Association, we have a team of interns who are helping with marketing, trying to explain this concept to them. I think give them these kinds of questions. And ideally what I do, especially if it's a specific group of people, sit down with them and go through an example or two, ideally examples from your company and its content, or maybe your competitors, and work through it with them. Ask yourselves, so what? Talk about it. Ask yourselves what people have said. Ask yourselves why it matters. Like spend 30 minutes going through an example in detail and they'll probably get it right. People tend to understand things a lot better if you make them interact with it, which is why I've been asking all of you these annoying questions this whole time. We have another minute for a question, one more question if anybody has one, otherwise we're done. I'm gonna go back to my last meme. I think we didn't appreciate it enough.
Yeah. Honestly,
Okay, no more
I'm stealing
questions.
these memes, Maria. I hope you know that.
I think we're good. Oh, slide with the sample questions again. For which section? Because we have 3. And you will get a template link. It is for
Yeah.
Notion, but you don't have to like make a Notion account to view it. You can take screenshots and there will be a little PDF link in there too. So don't worry if you don't want to use Notion. This was for I Say. I'll give you a couple seconds. Oh, in the beginning. All right. Was it this one? Is this the one you were looking for? Virginia Cider Association? Or was it the second one? No, was it this one? On the example. This one? Oh, why do you care? Yes, yes, yes. There you go. Cool. We figured it out.
Well, all right,
Okay.
friends, we're at the top of the hour. Just wanted to say thank you for everyone for asking your questions in the chat. Thank you, Maria, for like sharing your expertise with us today. I'm going to drop all of Maria's links in the chat for you so you can connect with her there. This session was recorded, so you will get everything again, as well as the slides. So don't worry about having to like rush to like get everything before we exit. I got it all. You'll get it in the replay email.
Yeah, you'll get it. And I'll try to fix my typo before it goes out.
Yeah, no worries. Didn't even
All
notice.
right. Yeah, and you guys can find me on LinkedIn. Send me your own memes. I always love seeing marketing memes.
Yeah.
All right.
And Maria's also in Slack, so hit her up there too if you're in our Growclass Slack. We'll
Thank
see
you
you
all
all
for
at another
coming.
session. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, friends. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.